Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am excited to have Tom Griffiths as my guest. And let me tell you about Tom. Tom helps small business owners have a growing and more profitable business so they can achieve their personal and professional goals. His goal is simple: to help his clients go from feeling overwhelmed, stressed about their finances, wondering where did all the money go, to feeling confident, knowing that they're running their business like a CFO, CEO, and all the other C's that we as entrepreneurs attach to our name, with numbers driving sound decisions making. So today we're going to talk about why most businesses fail and how not to be one of them. Please join me in welcoming Tom Griffiths as my guest. Tom, let's just roll up our sleeves and talk about this subject that everybody thinks about and sometimes don't really share.
Thank you for having me, Vicki. Pleasure to be here.
You're so very welcome. So the easy first question is, tell everyone where you live.
London. I'm based in London. My clients are in London generally, although I do work with a number in the US as well. So between London and all the UK and the US.
Awesome. And I always ask everyone to kind of share their journey of what really has led them to where they are today in this current juncture of their venture, of their journey.
Yeah, good question. So I won't talk for too long, but my background is in finance. So I worked in banking for about 7 years in London. I then left just after COVID to start my own business. And whilst running my own business, I had people in my network basically reaching out to me and asking them for help in what I would consider kind of the basics of how to run a business, understanding cash flow, profitability, and understanding kind of what to focus their attention on so that they can keep the business healthy and grow their cash flow and profits so that they can move towards their long-term goals and the reason that they started the business in the first place. And I realized that given that my friends or the people in my network had these sorts of problems, it's probably an indication that a lot of other business owners are struggling with the same types of things. And so I shifted my attention to just focus solely on helping business owners to understand the numbers so that they can get clear on what's working and not working inside their business, so that they can use that information to work out what to do next so they can have a growing, healthy and successful business, however they define success and wherever they want to go with it.
Awesome. So we'll just get right into the question out there. Why do most businesses fail? And what are the problems that they face that lead them into that journey of failure?
Yeah, it's a good question. So if you want to know the stats, and it depends where you look, but pretty much everywhere you look paints the same picture. And that is that about 50% of businesses fail by the time it's their 5th birthday, or they don't make it to their 5th birthday. And so, if you look at the reasons for those business failures, what it all boils down to is the same thing at the end of the day. And that is that those businesses or those business owners weren't able to produce enough cash within the business, because nobody would close down a business that's making enough cash. So whether it's a direct problem with cash flow and literally running out of cash that the business owner faced, or just not being able to build a business that produces enough cash flow to keep the business healthy and keep it worth running for the business owner. The bottom line is that the business owners need to understand better how to generate cash in their business. And so that's the cause of business failures. And that's the reason that 50% don't make it to their 5th birthday, but about 90% don't make it to their 10th birthday. And again, it all boils down to the same reason, and that is that the business owners need a way to focus on generating consistent positive cash flow. And with consistent positive cash flow, you can keep the business healthy, and then you can also use it to solve any problem that you've got in the business. So if you've got a management problem, you can hire new management. If you've got a sales problem, you can focus on better marketing or better salespeople. If you've got a problem with your product quality, you can focus on improving that. Cash or cash flow solves any problem that you face in a business. And then obviously you can use cash as well to be able to take time off. Many business owners can't take a week or two off without checking their emails every day.
That's true. That's true.
Cash solves that issue as well.
So that could be a whole other discussion too about being willing to hire people you need to do the things that you don't need to do because you should be focusing on bringing in the cash.
Exactly.
So let's just talk about some strategies that they can use to keep more money in their business and not only going out. Coming in, not going out.
So it depends where every business owner is, but a general framework that I like to guide people through is called Profit First. Have you heard of it? So essentially what it's about is labeling all the money that comes into the business bank account. So the money comes into one account, and then we put that money into different accounts depending on what it's used for. So for example, if you've got a client event coming up and you need to you're going to have costs associated with that event, then you would put some money into one of the bank accounts so that you've got that money separated from your main business money, and that means you don't spend it. If you've got last year's tax bill that you haven't yet paid, you can put that money into another account just to make sure you don't spend it. And so basically it's a way to manage the cash flow so that you don't have all the money going into one account and then all the money coming out of that same account. Because very often I call it the black hole account, because most business owners, they have all the money going to one account and it basically just gets spent. And whatever's left over at the end of the day is what they pay themselves. So they pay themselves the breadcrumbs, and inevitably there's not much left. So what we want to do instead is we want to pay you first, or pay the business owner first. So we set up an easy system so that every dollar that comes into the business bank account, we can put it into a different bank account so that nobody can touch it. And when it's separated and you can't touch it, it means that you're forced to run the business off a lower amount of money, because you run the business off what's left in the main bank account.
And it's such an interesting concept. My background for my second job was in franchising and for fast food. And we always tell the franchisees, whenever they're starting this journey, that 5 to 7 years, you're not going to be able to pay yourself, that all your money goes right back into the business. And some people do better, do closer to the 5 years, and some don't even make it at the 7th year. But it is an interesting thing. From that, I learned I have an account that all of the pay from my business goes into that, and it's not my personal account. And then I have another account that I have where it's special events goes into that. So it's very interesting, the concept. But I learned from watching people fail to know that has to be different.
Yeah, exactly.
So what can our listeners today, whether they're a solopreneur or have an organization or a small business owner, somebody in corporate who's trying to get a leg up type of thing, how can listeners today improve their situation? What would be a quick win that they could have?
So I think for business owners, it starts with, the problems start with not reviewing the numbers. So any business owner can get ahead of most other business owners by just reviewing the numbers. Um, and reviewing the numbers means looking at them probably at least once a month, understanding what has happened in the business, and then using that information to understand what is working and what's not working in the business, and then use that information to create objectives and next steps for the next 30 days so that they're always focusing on the most important things in the business. And that's how you go from working on the business to working on the business, from working in the business or being stuck in the business.
Mm-hmm.
So it all starts, in my opinion, with reviewing the numbers. And yeah, a lot of business owners, they don't like looking at the numbers. It's stressful, it causes anxiety. But if you can just get into the habit of reviewing them and just trying to understand them a bit, then you're going to get further ahead than most.
Awesome. So, what are the most common mistakes that business owners are making out there, besides not looking at the numbers?
Yeah, good question. So I think it's not being clear on the goals of the business, or the reason that you started the business in the first place. So a lot of business owners will start the business with an end goal in mind. They'll be experts at their craft, and they'll have the objective of running the business for, say, 5 years or 10 years and then selling it, or reducing their working time to 1 day a week, or a few hours a day, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they start the business. But what they don't realize is that by starting the business, they become a business owner. And business owners have to learn how to run a business. And that means keeping the business healthy, and ensuring that you're generating enough profits and cash flow to keep the business running, and also invest in the business so that you can solve the problems that you encounter in the business. And so what happens is, business owners will realize that kind of when they're a year or two into the business, and by that point it's almost too late because they're already stressed, they're overwhelmed, and they've stopped enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
So it's losing sight of why they started the business in the first place, can then essentially come back to haunt them a bit.
So when we talk about, having money coming in and out, what advice, there are things that you should say yes to, and there's things that you should say no to. And we often on my podcast will talk about the fact of you should know what your core values and your mission, your goals are of your organization, no matter if it's a solopreneur or a larger group. And that should kind of inform your decisions. And I think sometimes you hear that the solopreneur is very lonely position because they're not wanting to spend money on training, on coaches, on mentors, on technology, because they're not making money on that. But talk to us about maybe from a strategic mindset, how doing those things may actually bring in you money.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, with any problem, the way you solve it is either with time or with money. There's no other way. So either you can decide not to invest in mentoring or coaching and try and solve the problem yourself, and that might work, but you will invest your own time in doing so. And in doing so, you also run the risk of not actually being able to solve the problem. So you could go 3, 6, 12 months focusing on trying to fix the problem, but at the end of that period, still be in the same problem that you're in now. Okay. Or the alternative route is that you pay with money to somebody who knows how to fix the problem, and they fix the problem for you in a much shorter time, let's say a month or 2 months. But obviously you use the money to solve the problem. So it's a question of which one is more important to you at any given stage you're in your life. And obviously the one resource we can't get back is time. So in my opinion, it's always worth basically paying someone to help you fast track your route to getting or solving whatever problem that you've got.
Yeah. In project management, we called it the triple constraints, but very, very true. So once a business gets to a certain comfort level, And it really is time for them to accelerate, scale, or whatever you want to call it. But they're afraid that they don't know what's outside, they don't know what's next is going to bring, and they're afraid of failure. They don't want to be one of those statistics. So what advice do you give that customer, that client of yours, to make them understand that they need to grow, they need to evolve to be able to stick around?
So I would go back to kind of their goals and their objectives, and really speak in language that they understand, rather than talking about things that might intimidate them. Talk in terms of the objectives and language that they do understand, and then reverse engineer that back to,
Mhm.
okay, let's look at what's going on in the landscape. Let's look at what's going on in the business. What challenges are you facing? Why do you think you're facing that challenge? What will happen if we don't fix that? Or what will happen if we don't address that? And let them come up with the answer themselves, rather than me coming up with the answer and
Yeah.
telling.
And I think that's a really good point, because not everybody that has become a business owner or entrepreneur really is comfortable with the marketing aspect, that research that you're talking about, to know what are the current trends and all that. But there are other people out there that do love that, that are very good at that. And so how do you convince someone that to trust that they should bring in somebody that can help them in those areas, and let them again focus on bringing in the money?
Well, I think you just have to focus on kind of the alternative. What will happen if you don't solve these problems?
Yeah.
And you can ask those questions in a very non-salesy way, but they will come up with the answer themselves and say, well, no, I have to fix the problem. And if they don't have to fix the problem, well, then that's fine. Then they don't have to fix it. But later down the line, they may realize that they did have to, and it might be too late by that point. Or
Right.
maybe they don't need to fix it, and they can carry on doing as they're doing, and that's absolutely fine.
So in these final minutes that we have today, what would, kind of to recap, what would be, say, 3 pieces of advice you would give to any client that came in that was saying, Tom, I need your help. I want to grow my business so that it lasts past that 5-year mark that you just told me about.
Yeah.
What should I do first?
Yeah. So I think for any business owner, it starts with reviewing the numbers. So the crucial numbers, there are 3. So it's revenue, which is what you make. It's profit, which is what you make minus what you spend, and then it's cash, which is literally the cash in your bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Start with those 3 numbers. You can then expand it out a bit and go revenue, gross profit, net profit, cash. And really, you want to get into the habit of reviewing those numbers and looking at the trend that you're seeing. Which numbers are increasing, which numbers are decreasing, and then thinking to yourself, why is this happening?
Mm.
And by shining a light on these numbers and then trying to understand why they've been happening in that way, it forces you to think about how to do things better for the next month. So the next month, when we come and review them again, we're in a better position. So for any business owner who's not already doing that, that's the easiest thing that you can start doing today that will have a big impact on you and your business, and the way you feel about your business, because you're going to have a bit of clarity on where you're currently at. Whereas if you don't review the numbers, then you really don't know where you're at, because if you have a bookkeeper that sends you the numbers every month, then usually they're going to be out of date by a week or 2 by the time they send them to you. You then have to understand the income statement and the balance sheet yourself, which might be fine, but for many it's not. If you have an accountant and not a bookkeeper who does the bookkeeping for you, usually when you meet the accountant, you'll meet them, 3 or 4 months after the end of the prior tax year, and by the time you review them, it's way too late. So you have to have some way of looking at what's happening in your business in real time, or as close to real time as you can get to it, in order to really have clarity and comfort that you know what's going on.
Do you recommend any technology, Intuit, or any program that could help the person that is not financially minded?
Yeah, so I mean, every business owner should have an accountant and a bookkeeper. The accountant helps you file the taxes and stay compliant with the law. The bookkeeper is like the record keeper, and they're the ones that would update the accounting software so
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to, and then they can send you the numbers every month for you to have a look at, if nothing else. But for many business owners, understanding these balance sheet and profit and loss is not an option. So I would say just start with looking at your bank account.
Mm,
That's
very
better
good.
than nothing.
Yeah.
That's better than nothing.
It's
You can
better
just
than
literally just
nothing.
look at the cash flow. Look at cash flow every month. How much has come in? How much has gone out? And then really you do need to start looking at the profit margins that you're making on every job or every client as
Transaction.
well, and you can start integrating that gradually. But just start somewhere.
Awesome. Well, we covered quite a lot today in just a short time. If you would like to be able to connect with Tom, see how he might be able to help you in your business, and if you're listening, I am going to give you the information, but you should run and grab a paper and pencil right quick.
So yeah, for anyone who's interested in connecting with me, then the name of my business is synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co. If you'd like to learn a bit more about what I've talked about today, then I do have a free report that I can give you. It's on the 16 drivers of revenue, cash flow, and profits of any business, whether you're Uber or Amazon or a one-person, dental practice on a high street. Exactly the same 16 drivers. So you can download that. There's a link here.
Awesome.
You can just go on that page and download it, and I'll send it to you.
Awesome. And you can find him on LinkedIn at Tom Griffiths 8. So if you just search Tom Griffiths, and that's Griffiths. And what can they find on that LinkedIn? What are you posting out there?
I post Monday to Friday. So I post obviously free stuff, educational stuff mostly. Some of it's videos of me talking, others written posts, images, creatives. There's also a few free downloads you can get on my LinkedIn profile. So feel free to go and have a look on there. And you can also message me on there as well.
Awesome. Tom, it's been just wonderful chatting with you. You gave such really great, sensible advice for us as entrepreneurs, as small business owners. And I know that all would benefit from downloading that free 16 driver. So everybody, I hope you'll go ahead and do that. And as always, thank you for being such a great guest.
Thank you, Vicki. Pleasure to be here.
And as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.